In the village of Ndikako, nestled between thick forests and winding rivers, a land where the spirits roamed freely, watching over the people, in this village lived Ezeudo, a wealthy man known for his vast farmlands, many barns of yam, and wisdom. He was respected among the elders and loved by his kinsmen. But despite Ezeudo's wealth, his true joy was his wife, Nnenna. Nnenna was a woman of rare beauty and kindness. Her skin glowed like the morning sun, and her laughter was as soft as the evening breeze. More than her beauty, she was known for her patience and generosity. She fed the hungry, cared for the sick, and honored the gods with pure devotion. But there was one sorrow that darkened Nina's heart. She had no child, and in Igbo land, a woman without a child is like a river without water. The whispers began softly, like the rustling of dry leaves, but soon they grew louder, like the roar of the Nkwo market. Will Ezeudo's lineage end with him? The villagers murmured. A man as great as him must have an heir. The pressure weighed heavily on Ezeudo. Though he loved Nnenna dearly, the words of the elders rang in his ears. A man's wealth is nothing if he has no son to inherit it. And so, after many nights of sleepless thoughts, he made a painful decision that he would take a second wife. It was during the harvest festival that Obidiya arrived. She was a woman of striking beauty, with eyes sharp like a hawk's and a voice as smooth as fresh palm wine. But beneath her enchanting smile lay a heart filled with ambition and envy. Obidiya was not like Nnenna. She was cunning, with a tongue as sweet as honey, but as poisonous as the bite of a viper. She knew that to secure her place she had to make herself the most important woman in Ezeudo's life. At first, she played the role of humble wife, bowing before Nnenna, calling her Wanyoko, meaning the senior wife. But in her heart, she despised her. She saw Nnenna as obstacle, a fading shadow that needed to be erased. When the moon had completed its circle twice, Obidia became pregnant. The entire village erupted in celebration. Drums echoed through the hills, and the elders poured libations to the gods. Obidia walked with pride, her belly round like the full moon, while Nnenna was left in the shadows, her sorrows hidden behind forests. But what no one knew was that this was just the beginning. For when jealousy takes roots in the hearts, it grows like a wild vine, twisting, choking, and destroying everything in its path. As weeks passed, Obidia's pregnancy became the center of every conversation in Ndikako. The women in marketplace gossiped about how blessed she was, and the men praised Ezeudo for choosing a second wife. The gods have smiled upon him, they said, but in the quiet corners of the compound, where the moonlight barely touched, a different story was unfolding. Nina sat alone in her hut, staring at the flickering flame of her oil lamp. She had prayed for a child for years, yet it was Obidia who now carried Ezeudo's heir. Though her heart ached, she refused to let bitterness consume her. The gods knows the best, she whispered to herself. Obidia saw things differently. To her, Nina was nothing more than a dried up branch, useless, taking up space. She had no intention of sharing Ezeudo's love, nor did she want Nina to have any influence in the household. So she began planting seeds of discord. One evening, as Ezeudo sat under the Odala tree, chewing on a kola nut, Obidia approached him with a troubled look. She called him "my husband," she said sweetly, sitting beside him. I fear that my life and the life of our unborn child may be in danger. Ezeudo's brows furrowed. What do you mean, Obidiya? Obidiya sighed, casting a cautious glance towards Nnenna's hut. It is Nnenna, she whispered. She resents me because I carried a child she could not give you. I have seen the way she looks at me. Her eyes burn with jealousy. She no longer speaks to me kindly. And just yesterday, I found a dead bird at my doorstep, Obidiya said to the husband. I fear she has gone to a native doctor to cast a spell on me. Ezeudo frowned. Nnenna was the gentlest soul he had ever known. She was incapable of such wickedness. Doubts, once planted, always has a way of growing. Are you sure? He asked. Peter let out a deep sigh, placing a trembling hand on her belly. I only want peace in this household, my husband. But if anything happens to me or our child, know that I warned you. That night, as he lay beside Nnenna, he found himself staring at her in the dim light, searching for any sign of malice. He now sensed his unease. My husband, what troubles you? Nnenna asked him, but Ezeudo only shook his head. Nothing, Nnenna. Please, can you sleep? Yet, deep in his heart, a small shadow of doubt had begun to grow.